Hello, welcome back to the video lecture series for Introduction to AR Programming using Scala. We've been talking about for loops for the last two videos, and we continued that with this video. In this video, we're going to talk about if guards on for loop. They're another option that we can put inside of our for loops. And so let's look at what those are like. So if we run our RAPL here, in the previous video, I did something like this to only print out even values. So 1 to 10, if I modulo 2 is 0, print line I. And that approach works just fine when you are using the loop as a statement. But what if I want to use it, so instead of printing it, I want to yield something. So in this case, I want to, if I is I modulo 2 is 0, I want to yield I, but I want to have it so it doesn't yield the odd numbers. Well, if I try this here, that's whoops. Let's include our yield. We get something that's kind of weird here. We do get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but we also get units, and that's because if you have an if statement and it doesn't have an else, when the else is when the value is false, you get back unit. So that's a bit problematic, and we wind up with a vector of any val, which also is not quite what we want. And the problem is there really isn't anything good that I could put here. Maybe I could do something like that, and then maybe I feel like doing res3 dot filter of something greater than or equal to 0, and then I get my even values, but that was kind of a pain. The better way to do this is, and when you're using a yield, how you should do this, is to take and throw this if inside of the for. Okay, so you have the ability to put if guards on your for loops, and you can do this by putting a semicolon and then saying the if that you want. If I modulo 2 is 0. Turns out that for the if guards on a for loop, the parentheses are optional. You can decide if you want to put them in just so they look consistent. And now, when it yields, the advantage is that anything that doesn't pass this condition is actually skipped. Okay, so we can use the yield and have it so that there are the various values that are not accepted in here. So let's do an example. Once again, we'll do something like with some random numbers. Val nums equals array.fill. If I make 100 random numbers and I could do something with a for loop. So val small nums is equal to the for loop where I take the x value from nums, but I only want to keep it if x is less than 0.5. And then let's say I want to yield x squared. Okay, so I want the squares of all of the numbers that were less than 0.5. I don't want to have the square for the larger values. Okay, and that would give me this, and I can show that indeed there are significantly fewer. Roughly half of the values were less than 0.5 for this sampling of random numbers. I would get this. In the previous video, I did something where I had some points, and so if I take random points, so I generate 100 random points, and I do them in the form of math.random, math.random. So I have 100 random points, and now I want to calculate, let's say I want to calculate the distances, but I only want the distances for the ones that are inside of the unit circle. Well, then I can do val distances equals 4, and once again I'm going to use the pattern here. I'm going to make an x and a y that are pulled out for points, but I only want the ones where the square plus y times y is less than or equal to 1. Okay. I don't need to take a square root here, but I do need an if. Let's go back and let's put in an if, because I only care about the magnitude, and then what I want to do is yield here the value of math dot square root of x times x plus y times y. And then I get all of the distances for things that are inside of the unit circle, and if I were to ask how many of those there are, there's 74 that were inside of the unit circle. Now, I'll go ahead and throw in one extra topic here because it just stands out that I have this exact same expression repeated twice. And so another option we have with our for loops is the ability to introduce variables. So, that's not necessarily what I wanted to do. By introducing this variable, then I can use it there, and then I can also return math.square root of dsqr, and I get the same result that I had before, but I didn't repeat this expression because I had it included as a variable. So we've now seen three types of things that we can put inside of our for loops. We have a generator like this, which will run through a collection. We can put in variable declarations, and we can put in if guards. And these if guards are particularly useful when you are using it as an expression, so when you have a yield. If you're using it as a statement, you can just embed an if inside. But the thing is because then you can choose to not do something if the condition is false. But when you have a yield and you only want to yield for certain values, that is where this the if guard comes into play. So we have a few more options to talk about in the for loop, and we will look at those.